Yo, yo. Look, real fast. I want to get into reincarnation. I would like for y'all to get into reincarnation. And I want to just talk about observation and experience. Now, one thing I think that we all can agree on is that we've all experienced being in the same body as our mothers. You can't tell me that you didn't experience that. But what you can say, and it would be factual, is that you didn't observe it. Damn, they got these fucking horse mosquitoes out right now. That nigga look like a whole thug. Um, yeah, so it's really important to to know the difference between experience and observation, being and existing, right? You've always existed, always. Now, right now, you're a human being, I suppose. I don't know who's watching this. I don't know what year, what universe this shit gonna end up landing in. But this is intended for humans, right? So, as a human, you've always existed. There was never a point in your journey where you never existed. Like you don't exist and then don't exist and then exist again. You know what I'm saying? That's not how things work. Now, what ends up happening is you take on forms, and having a form makes you a being, right? You know, a being. Like, for instance, we have water, right? We have water, we have higher and lower octaves of actual water because water is a compound, right? Hydrogen and oxygen. Now, we also have bodies of water. We have rivers, creeks, ponds, oceans, lakes. Ocean, lake, pond, river, they're all beings. Even a dark cloud is a being which holds water. A trumpet is a vehicle, right? A trumpet is the being which makes the sound observable, right? Um, the trumpet sounds just like an elephant, right? That same music can come from an elephant, it can come from a trumpet, but the sound itself has always existed, is what I'm saying. After the elephant dies, after the elephant reaches his, you know, peak, after the elephant is gone, after there's no more elephants, there'll still be trumpets, right? And I'm not saying that a trumpet is an elephant. I'm still within the realm of sound at the moment, right? Drums. You can make a drum out of anything, right? Percussion is the family in which that sound comes from, you know, consequences and repercussions. So I say all of that to say the more we observe, the more we can experience. But it's not so true the other way around. You can experience a lot of shit and not observe none of it. There's a book called The Alchemist by Paul Coelho, and the main character, his name is Santiago. Santiago goes to a palace and meets a king, a fucking prime minister, a queen, a president. He meet one of them motherfuckers, right? And he asked the king, the prime minister, the whatever the fuck you want to call it. He asked him for some shit, and homeboy like, or the dude like, nah, I ain't got no time for this shit. But if you really want me to put you on to some game, look, take a walk around the palace and meet me in 2 hours. Santiago said, I bet. Then the dude was like, hold up. He gave him a spoon, and he put 2 drops of oil in the spoon. And he said, take this spoon. Make sure you don't drop any of this oil. Santiago was like, all right, cool. I ain't gonna drop the oil. So he went around the palace for about 2 hours. And his eyes was fixated on that spoon, on not dropping the oil. When he got back to the palace and spoke to the king, the prime minister, the queen, the emperor, the president, whatever, he was like, yo, I see you back. Oh, and you didn't spill the oil. Did you get a chance to actually, he said, did you get a chance to see the palace and see all of the wonderful feng shui? Santiago was like, nah, not really. I was trying to make sure that the fucking oil didn't fall out. He said, all right, I see. Go back around the palace for 2 hours. This time, you know what I mean, look at the shit. He gave him the spoon, and he said, make sure you don't spill nothing. Santiago started motherfucking going around the palace and started looking at everything. It was just like in awe, like everything was beautiful. But he kept on spilling the oil. So what does that mean, right? If you focus on your oil, you'll experience the palace. You'll experience the king, the prime minister, the queen. You'll experience. But if you don't observe it, you really ain't experience shit. That's what happens before we end up reincarnating and incarnating into beings and into things. We get to a point where wherever your imagination takes you after you die, depending on what you've observed in this lifetime, is what's going to be the gate It's gonna be the door, the plane, the barrier, which leads you to your next situation. If you live most of your life in observation of another person's idea, of another person's indoctrination, and another person's dogma, your afterlife is also going to carry that same energy. Now, like I said, it depends on how you imagine this thing. I don't want to tell you that if you die, you just end up on an episode of Law and Order, and then from there, you figure out what you're gonna do for your next incarnation. That could be possible for a motherfucker out here. Somebody might literally die, and the crossroads would be the motherfucking aisle in the courtroom, and you got a motherfucker judging your ass. I think they did like a gag like that on The Simpsons, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, taking the taking the gift, like the ability, the blessing to imagine and to develop your own points of view, your own ideals, is an awesome way to take control of your circumstance and your situation. Depending on where you are in your total journey, you doing for yourself may mean that you have to do for yourself this time around. Or it could mean that you doing for yourself in turn does for others in this life. So for instance, right? And another reason why I don't teach any ways, I don't project my ideals onto you, is because there's so many different ways this thing can play out, and that's the game of life. That's why you have this idea of free will. That's why you think that you're waking up in the morning on your own. You know, once again, the universe is your imagination. Like, you literally create everything that's in front of you, behind you, ahead of you, beneath you, above you. It all comes from you. Depending on how dependent that individual you is, who happens to be in control, will, for the most part, map out your experiences. Experiences. Like I said, we all go through experiences. But if we don't observe, we'll experience the same shit over and 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 over again. It's like the old guy that has Alzheimer's, right? And they be like, yo, what's the best part about having Alzheimer's? And he be like, that I get to meet new people every day. And what's amazing about that is that you think that you're meeting new people, but you're not. You're not. Meeting new people is very like illusory. It's an illusion. What we're really doing is we're connecting with things that we're already connected to. We're vibrating to things that we already are tuned and fixed to. People just have the form of whatever that being, chose to be. You know, I think I got derailed for a second, but like, another reason why I wanted to talk about how like it's, any way is the way. Like your way is the way. Any way is the way. So a motherfucker can choose to sell his mother's, engagement ring to get some crack, right? Smoke crack. Fucking not ever take care of his children so that he could smoke crack. He'll fuck around and hit a lick and go to jail and be talking about how he just want to smoke some fucking crack. You know what I'm saying? And what'll happen is, as much as we want to judge that individual has the ability to influence a lot of people around him, for better or for worse, right? That individual can, you know, not even, like, they won't even observe what they're doing, but they'll be a walking, talking vibration, and they will be communicating something to us without saying a word, without having to, even emote. Like, we can see you and we can see you. You know what I'm saying? We see what you are. And what that does is it helps the community. It helps whatever surrounds that motherfucker. It helps him to it helps the community to realize potential danger. You know what I'm saying? Like, it goes both ways. Like, bad things can be great, good things can be terrible. You know what I'm saying? It's 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 all about how you choose to view your perspective. I mean, use your perspective. And if you choose to even look, there's a lot of people that don't look down. They don't look up. They don't look. They just moving. You know, are they crazy? It might look that way, but what if they just walking by faith and not by sight? You can't tell them that they wrong because you weren't there to experience or to observe their experience. You're observing what you're observing, and you're experiencing what you're experiencing. See what I'm saying? And because of that, we'll project ourselves onto other people. It's funny how we project our negatives onto others, but when we project our positive onto others, motherfuckers think that we crazy or, funny or different or whatever. It's the same shit. When you project your positive shit on other people and you look at it like that, then you see that, like, yo, like, separation is an illusion. Like, I am this motherfucker if I can learn this motherfucker. And this motherfucker's whole life is to learn himself or learn herself. You know? Once they decide that they want to learn, then they'll observe. The more they observe, the more they can correct, the more they can deal with their karmas, the more they can deal with their debts. And for that reason right there, I want a lot of you guys to observe more. Yeah, observe more. I would say pay attention, but paying attention and observing are not necessarily the same thing. Paying attention is being directed to an area in which a motherfucker want you to go. If you went to a movie theater and you paid attention, then you would be giving that entity, that idea, that product of somebody's imagination, you will be giving it life by giving it attention. You know, we give children attention, they come to life. We give some adults attention, they close up because of anxiety and shit like that. You know what I mean? But attention is your spiritual currency. People spend their spiritual currency, like, unwittingly, like they don't even know. So the way that I carry myself, I wear a board on my head, on my dome, so I can mentally communicate with spirits the way y'all do it with this shit right here. So yeah, and symbols, yeah, yeah, I use them. I also do that. So by doing that, I communicate without even saying a word, and I communicate to your subconscious and to your unconscious. The same way that that crackhead is going to communicate to his community and to his family through the subconscious and through the unconscious, right? Now, if you pay attention to shit that's going to lead you into indoctrination, a slave mentality, then you're literally giving your spiritual currency to something and you're going to reap what you sow. Now, observation is different than paying attention. Paying attention is honing in and having tunnel vision. Observation is seeing the picture, seeing the big picture, seeing what's really going on here. You know, don't say pay attention to the equation, say observe it. You know, because if I said pay attention to the equation, you would figure out where to start, right? The thing about observation and paying attention is that the true universe has no beginning or an end at this particular time within Chronos, within Saturn, within chronological order. Yada yada yada, right? Because it doesn't have any beginning or end, when you observe, you see that where one thing ends, others begin, but you can't really distinguish what that, like, where that point is. And because of that, we see that all of this shit is in conjunction. All of this shit is connected. Another reason why Lil Wayne is one of the illest wordplay motherfuckers out there. And Daylight. I gotta give Daylight his flowers. That motherfucker could rap. His wordplay is ridiculous. And I'm not even gonna say no more names because we not doing no motherfucking lists. We just giving flowers. This video went on way too motherfucking long. I spoke way too motherfucking slow. And yet, it is what it is. Because I give anonymously, right? Observe, y'all. Observe. Observe.